It's DIY with the Doyles. What's up, you guys? It's Valentine's Day.
Woo, woo, woo. Love day.
Love day.
Love day.
And look, I did my hair.
And since she had hers out, I went ahead and put mine out too.
Bye. Bye. Anyway.
Yeah, mine took a lot less work, by the way.
So, we're going to be talking about relationships today. And I think it's...
Because why not?
It is. And I think it's a really important thing to talk about this on a day where everybody's talking about romantic relationships and things like that. I remember when I was a kid and I used to be like, I don't like Valentine's Day. And my mom was like, why don't you like Valentine's Day? And I was like, because everybody's in love. She's like, you're 13. Relax.
Right.
Like, but she's like, don't not love a day because it's centered around love and you're not in love. She's
Right.
like, relationships are relationships are relationships. And yes, Valentine's Day is a day to celebrate romantic relationships.
But hey, we even now have like Galentine's
Day and all these things.
All the things. So we've gotten to a point where I think now we're celebrating more than just couples.
Right.
We're
And I think that's
celebrating
important.
love of everybody,
Yes.
including loving yourself.
Right. And including loving yourself.
I think all of that is necessary on today.
Yes, it is. And so in this episode of DIY with the Doyles, we're going to bring to you just some practical tips. Tactical.
Are we fighting?
Tactical tips.
We beating up love.
We're beating it up. But we're going to bring some practical tips to relationships in general. So we're going to focus on single, dating, engaged, and married. And so within that, we are going to talk about just some pinnacle things that you need, just some cornerstones that you need in terms of relationships, period. And so with each level that we go to, these things that we talk about can be pulled into the next level and the next level and the next level. So we're making a pyramid here, people. We're building from the bottom, getting to the top.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Yep, see? And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, number one, the things that you need, period, in terms of relationships, no matter what relationship you're in. Guess what? Everybody engages in relationships on a daily basis.
Everyone.
Every single person. You have a relationship between you and your mom, a relationship between you and your dad, your grandparents, your coworkers, whatever it may be. You are actively in relationships all the time. And so it's important that we figure out what the benchmark of that should be. And honestly, when we were talking about it, what were we talking about, babe?
Well, communication. It's the most basic building block that we could think of as we were going through this idea of relationships.
Yep.
And it starts with, I think, one, have an honest communication with yourself. You know, we've all seen it, you know, talk to yourself in the mirror, give yourself all those positive affirmations. All of those things are great, but I think also the biggest thing is don't lie to yourself either. If you're not okay, say you're not okay.
Right.
If you need something, say that you need something. If you don't like something, say you don't like something.
Right.
I mean, I think there's just something freeing that comes from honestly communicating, one, with ourselves, so that then we can begin to communicate honestly with anybody else that we have a relationship with. Like we said, coworkers, family, friends, whomever. If you communicate honestly, then you're going to get honest communication and response, which I think leads to our next idea, which would be what?
Trust. I know, it seems like one of those things, but honestly, if there's no trust, communication is lost because you're not being honest. You're not being your true, authentic, unique self. And there's nobody else that can be you because you were created solely with you in mind. There's nobody else that can be you. And so to be your most authentic self and to be your most truthful self, you need to be able to trust those around you so that you can feel comfortable bringing all of who you are to any type of relationship. And so this kind of caps off our single section of this talk. But honestly, being single is a wonderful thing. Don't let anyone take your singleness from you in an effort to push you towards romantic relationship. The reality is that there's a beauty that can be found in singleness that honestly sometimes is very difficult to find when you're in a romantic relationship because you're being pulled in so many different ways that you don't have the time to focus solely on yourself anymore. Because now you're focusing on your significant other, or now you're focusing on the different responsibilities that you have. And so honestly, while singleness can be a little bit different because the society around you may be telling you, oh, in order for you to be this or that, you need to be in a relationship, in a romantic relationship. The reality is that you have to be fully comfortable in your singleness so that you can be good going forward in life. Not just in a romantic relationship, but moving forward. If you're not comfortable with who you are as a person, you're never going to be comfortable in any type of romantic relationship. So remember that, get excited about Valentine's Day, because if nothing else, loving yourself is the most important thing that we can talk about. And so by all means, do that.
And I would also say that in your singleness is also the time where you start to develop the friendships that propel you through the next things that we're going to cover. But having those solid friendships also make going through life that much easier, because now you have people that are going to go with you that are lasting, and you've already built that trust and that relationship with.
Right. And so we're going to move on into dating. So one of the things that we want to be very clear about in your dating stage of relationships is keeping your business private.
Yeah.
Now, this might be a little taboo because we're in the social media age, and so you start being interested in someone, going on dates, different things like that. You want to snap a shot.
Bam! Instagram.
It's like everybody is open to comment on all of the things happening in your life the second you post information that now they can interpret for themselves, that they can come up with conclusions about for themselves. It runs the gambit of getting really messy. And so we suggest that in your dating stage, in your getting to know people stage, date in private. Like, go out on all the coffee dates, dinner dates, movie dates, picnic dates, wherever you're going. Getting to know somebody dates, do it all in secret. And I don't want to say it's in secret because you're trying to hide something. It's in secret because you are not in a place yet that you can answer the questions that are going to be forced your way the second you release information. And so rather than putting yourself in a position where you feel confused and have a lot of questions, or honestly pushing the other person that you're with into something that they're not ready to be into yet because y'all are just kicking it, rather than doing any of that, keep everything private until we get to a stage where, like, we're making this thing official and I'm all about this person and I'm no longer dating other people. I'm uniquely and singly dating one person. Keep your dating life to yourself. Honestly, keep your business to yourself. Keep your dates to yourself. Keep your roses and your flowers and the things he got you or she got you and all the things. Keep them to yourself. Allow maybe one or two people that you really trust and that you communicate well with, to be your sounding board while you're going through dates. Because honestly, there's some ninjas out there that you don't need to keep dating. Like, hello. True. And so have somebody be your sounding board. Have somebody that's going to be level-headed, that's not going to be like, oh my goodness, when are you getting married? Have somebody that's honestly just going to talk to you about, yeah, this is probably a good thing. If you like this guy and you want to keep going on another date, then you may want to ask some additional questions. Do that while you're dating in private.
Yeah. And I think you really touched on it. It's you're keeping things at a very small circle. If and that's why I said, like, building those relationships at your single phase with people that you know you can trust. When you get to a point where, okay, hey, I like this person. I've gone to coffee with them. I've gone on a dinner date. Let me let that little group in. And because you know that they're going to be honest with you, it allows you to move forward in a way that you can still keep your business to yourselves, but you're not, like you said, keeping it a secret, like you're trying to hide something, and then later on, you got issues because you kept it secret. So we don't want you to keep everything so secret that then when you're in trouble, like nobody knows about it. But we wanted, like we kept our dating very private, save for one or two of her very close friends and maybe one of my close friends. And then when we got to the next stage of thinking about engagement and leading up to when we got engaged, which, hey, that's our next topic.
It is our next topic.
We then had a group of people that vetted each other because that was important for us. Like, her friends vetted me, my friends vetted her. And, after some time of us answering their questions when we were ready to answer them, they were like, oh, okay, y'all are good, in our eyes. But of course, it didn't really matter because we already knew what we wanted and how we felt.
And that leads me to another point in dating. Ask questions. Stop dating with rose-colored glasses. Like, let me be very transparent and very real with you guys. You need to ask questions. You need to ask all of the questions that you want to have answers to. Let me tell you something right now. Anybody that you are interested in romantically should be able to answer your questions, because if they can't answer your questions before there's any type of commitment going on between the two of you, they're probably going to be hard-pressed to answer your questions when there is a commitment. I don't necessarily think that you can have a commitment without honesty, but that's for a different day and a different topic and a different episode. However, I say this to say, ask all of the questions, ask the important questions, ask the questions that mean something to you. Do not let days go by, hours go by, weeks go by, where you're just sitting around wondering what somebody else is feeling or thinking. Newsflash, again, this goes back to communication. If you do not communicate the things that you want and you need early on and allow that person to freely make a decision about whether or not they want to continue interacting with you in a romantic way, you are going to lead yourself to a position of being hurt down the road because you may be on one trajectory and they may be on a completely different trajectory. And honestly, you want to be reaching your destination at the same time. You do not want to be reaching your destination before the other person does, because that leads to things like not being ready, feeling pressured, having other people around you influence the decisions that you make. If you ask the questions while you're dating, when you move to the next stage, which is engagement, you will have all of the answers that everybody will be asking you once you get engaged. Because you can go from dating to engage real quick, and then people are asking all the questions like, when are you doing this? When are you doing that? What's this? What's that? If you guys haven't had the proper conversations when you were dating, engagement is going to be difficult. But anyway, moving on to engagement, what does that look like, hon?
I mean, I think it's everything that you just said. It's having the answers to the questions that people are going to ask. Like, where are you going to live? How many kids y'all want to have? Who's going to stay home if you have kids? Or are you going to stay home if you have kids?
Do you know about each other's sexual past?
Right.
Do
all
you,
those things.
You know what I mean?
Like there's
money,
a lot of,
finances.
Yes, there's a lot of questions that people are going to have as soon as you get engaged. It's inevitable. It happens.
It's going to be like a firestorm of questions.
Yeah. I mean, and again, if you have all the conversations early on in your relationship, then the questions won't feel like the Spanish Inquisition. It's going to feel like a text message that you can be like, yep, we got that. And I think that's really the big thing is if you come into the engagement phase with all of the questions answered, then you get to actually enjoy the engagement phase. And I think that's our biggest thing that we really want to get across is when you get engaged, it's a beautiful time. Like, she gets to walk around with a ring on her finger that is bright and shiny that people are always going to want to look at. And then you get to walk around as the guy like, hey, yeah, that's my boo. That's my thing.
I did that. I bought that. I bought that.
I'm about to marry that. And it's a beautiful thing. And yeah, there's planning. There's wedding plans, there's seating charts, there's all these kind of things.
People skip over their engagement a lot of times to get to marriage, but there's a beautiful thing that happens within your engagement period that honestly, sometimes people don't have enough time to really bask in what it is to have said mentally, physically, and to the world that they are now going to join themselves with another person for the rest of their lives. Like, that's really a huge deal. Like, it's not a small decision that you come to get engaged. Like, marriage is a big decision, but honestly, the decision started when you decided to propose, because the ultimate goal is marriage, right? So I don't necessarily think that marriage is the big thing. Honestly, engagement is the big thing. There's a special thing that happens within the engagement time where you're starting to make plans, where you're looking towards your future, where you're continuing to gel and mold, and that's a beautiful time, and you shouldn't skip over that. I mean, our engagement period, I would say, was
we didn't enjoy it as much as we are hoping that you will, which is why we're saying
we hope that you will enjoy your engagement period. But what I will say during our engagement period is that we had the answer to all of the questions.
Yes. You get to be a united force during that engagement time, and I think that's really where everything gets solidified is during that engagement time where, like I said, you're a united front. And so it's the two of you are answering all the questions together from the standpoint of, we've already had all these conversations. Yeah. We've gotten all these answers. We've sought the advice of people that we needed to seek the advice of. And, we got the counsel that we needed.
Yes.
And we've made this decision, which then goes into, while you're engaged, get more counseling.
Yeah, do all the things.
Premarital counseling.
Yes.
Just regular relationship
Reading
counseling.
books.
Read the books, do the studies,
Yeah.
all the things. Make sure that you are fully prepared for the next step of your relationship, which is obviously marriage. But the really what it is you're doing an entire life with another person that prior to you, as long as when they were single, they found out their whole selves, they brought a whole person to a relationship. And so now it's two whole people trying to be two whole people together.
Right.
And so that takes work. It takes
It's
time.
not 50-50.
No, it's 100 and
100.
Like, it's because if you come into it thinking, oh, I only got to give 50%, then you're not giving it your all. And so, do all the things during that engagement phase. Get all of the advice that you need from trusted people, people that you are comfortable speaking into your life, whether that's a licensed counselor or whether that's a pastor in your church, whatever your situation may be. Make sure that it's a trusted person that you want to speak into your relationship, because some of those things carry on forever. And so you have to be very careful about who speaks into your relationship.
Very careful. And protect your relationship.
Yes.
The reality is your relationship is yours. Protect it. Fight for it. And know that you are moving forward because you have all of the information that you need to make the proper decisions moving forward.
Yep.
And the only way that you're going to be able to move forward and fight for your relationship is if you've had the communication that you need to have, if you fully trust the person that you're moving into this next stage of life with, if you've brought your authentic self, if you've been completely whole in your singleness, if you've asked all of the questions in your dating relationship, if you've kept the things that are private and close to you guys close to the vest rather than posting it all over social media. Like I said, we're building here, guys. Like, this is how you get to ultimately marriage.
Yeah. And then marriage is beautiful. Like, and I say that truthfully and honestly, it's beautiful. It's work, but it's beautiful work. And I think one of our big things is we no longer want to hear the phrase, and we've never really used the phrase of, oh, marriage is hard. It's not hard, people.
It's not hard.
It's just work. And I'm sorry. Work is a great thing. Work means that you are constantly doing something to make it better. And, if you need a practical example, most of us are going to the gym, still early in the year, so we still got those resolutions.
Hey, we got our resolutions.
That's work. But what you're doing is you are building a better you for going forward. And so it's the same thing with marriage. It's work. It's still having the hard conversations, still having the regular conversations, still having just the moments where you sit and stare at each other, or whatever you have to do to continue to
look
build.
at me.
But you're continuing to build and work together.
Yes.
The more that you work together, the better you will be. The more you work against each other, the harder it will be. So again, this is why we're saying we built up to this, because as long as you came in with all those other building blocks, the communication, the trust, the honesty, the circle of friends that are going to speak life into you, the counsel that's going to speak life into you, and then once you get to this top of this pyramid, which is marriage, which is really not really the top, it's kind of like that layer just before the peak, because you're still growing. You're constantly growing all the way up. And the beauty of it is every day you can grow more. Yeah. Because it doesn't stop. Every day, we as people are going to change a little bit. Every day. It happens. And as you change and as your partner changes, you get to change and grow together and work together to build something that is lasting and fun and enjoyable and hopefully, an inspiration to others. Yeah,
absolutely. And another thing about that too, in terms of just marriage, is let's also reclaim the phrase of the fairy tale. Everybody always talks about marriage is not a fairy tale, and I honestly hate that. And I'm going to tell you why, because I'm sorry, what fairy tale have you watched that doesn't have conflict in it? Every single fairy tale that I've ever seen and liked has conflict in it. All of our little rom-coms, there's always this big climactic thing that happens within the movie, and then you have a resolution. And so honestly, your marriage should be a fairy tale, because you should be moving from climax to climax to climax to climactic event that are all getting resolved, and you're moving forward. And so I think it's an important thing to understand that fairy tales are literally stories that just keep going. We don't know what happens after Cinderella and Prince Charming get married. We don't know what happens after Snow White runs off with her prince. We don't know any of those things. There's more to the story. The movie's only an hour and a half. What you want? But you have to reclaim that and stop thinking, oh my gosh, fairy tales are just perfect. Fairy tales are not perfect. Nope. You talk about people getting poisoned, people being asleep, people being in towers that you can't reach. Fairy tales are like dark, guys. Like, come on. Marriage is a fairy tale, and it's a beautiful fairy tale because there's conflict and resolution constantly happening. But the main thing that you find in fairy tales are that the people want to stay together. Yeah. That
they work through it together.
They work through it together, and after all of the conflict, at the end, they're still together. And that's why I think a marriage is a fairy tale, because you're still in it together at the end of the day. And I think that that's the most important part. So I know we've done like a huge overview on relationships, and we definitely weren't trying to get like specific, but we did want to kind of touch on a few things, and hopefully the things that we've talked about have been helpful, and they'll be able to help you in all of your relationships. If you have any additional questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, or comment under our pictures on Instagram or whatever. Constantly engage with us. We're here to answer any questions that you guys may have or elaborate on anything that we've said today. Definitely. But other than that, do all the things. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all the things. And honestly, just enjoy today. Enjoy a day that's centered around loving. Loving yourself, loving others, and being your true and most authentic self. So we love you guys, and we will be back in 2 weeks with the next one. Bye.